Jaya and Vijaya Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Shtotarshad Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Gaur Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 16, Text 36. Tayor asurayor adya tejasā yamayor ākṣiptaṁ teja etarhi bhagavāṁs vidhitsati tayor asurayor adya tejasā yamayor ākṣiptaṁ teja etarhi bhagavāṁs vidhitsati tayor asurayor adya tejasā yamayor ākṣiptaṁ teja etarhi bhagavāṁs vidhitsati 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 tayor asurayor adya tejasā yamayor bhagavāṁs vidhitsati asurayor adya vidhitsati tayoḥ of them asurayoḥ of the two asuras adya, today, tejasā, by the prowess, yamayor, of the twins, he certainly, ya, of all you demigods, ākṣiptaṁ, agitated, tejaḥ, power, etarhi, thus certainly, bhagavān, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, tat, that, vidhitsati, desires to do. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Translation: it is the prowess of these twin asuras, demons, that has disturbed you, for it has minimized your power. There is no remedy within my power, however, for it is the Lord Himself who desires to do all this. Although Hiraṇyakaśipu and Hiraṇyākṣa, formerly Jaya and Vijaya, became asuras, the demigods of this material world could not control them, and therefore Lord Brahmā said that neither he nor all the demigods could counteract the disturbance they created. They came within the material world by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he alone could counteract such disturbances. In other words, although Jaya and Vijaya assumed the bodies of asuras, they remained more powerful than anyone, thus proving that the Supreme Personality of Godhead desired to fight because the fighting spirit is also within him. He is the original in everything, but when he desires to fight, he must fight with a devotee. Therefore, by his desire only were Jaya and Vijaya cursed by the Kumaras. The Lord ordered the gatekeepers to go down to the material world to become his enemies so that he could fight with them, and his fighting desires would be satisfied by the service of his personal devotees. Brahma showed the demigods that the situation created by the darkness for which they were disturbed was the desire of the Supreme Lord. He wanted to show that even though these two attendants were coming in the form of demons, they were very powerful and greater than the demigods who could not control them. No one can surpass the acts of the Supreme Lord. The demigods were also advised not to try to counteract this incident because it was ordered by the Lord. Similarly, anyone who is ordered by the Lord to perform some action in this material world, especially preaching His glories, cannot be counteracted by anyone. The will of the Lord is executed under all circumstances. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. My dear Lord, please guide us all so that we can understand your words and your will and harmonize our life with both. Hare Krishna. The way, who is handling the camera? Is anybody? Can we adjust the camera so this is also visible? Because maybe this projection can be brought a little closer. Oh no, you can't do that. Leave it. Okay. So I'm grateful to be here with all of you today. And this is one of the most challenging sections of the Bhagavatam. Challenging because what is happening here is itself at one level deeply complicated, and at another level it is deeply related with us. So often when I'm at a place for only one time, I'm giving a class, I try to use a framework. I call it the Chit framework for Bhagavatam. So 3 things I'll discuss. What is the context? What is going on? Then what is the implication? What does it mean? And then finally, maybe you can put this over here slightly, so that even that is visible, the projection. And finally, the takeaway. So what is it that we can learn from it? So what is the context? What is the implication? And what is the takeaway? So in this way, we can expand our consciousness in a way that relates with us. So what is the context going on over here? I'll be writing and drawing something over here, as you may have made out. So the context is that there is a severe disturbance in the world. See, the material world is a place of ups and downs. But sometimes the downs go way down. And when this happens, this is what is dharmasya glanihi. When the downs go way, way down, that is the time there is an emergency. And say in our temples also, in our normal places, there are some problems. We try to deal with the problems. If the problems are a little more difficult, we escalate to our immediate authority. But if there's a huge crisis, then we have to go right to the top. So this is a crisis that has come over here. And the devatas, seeing the power of these deadly demons, have gone to Brahma. And they are expecting that Brahma will go to Vishnu. But Brahma is telling here, no need to go to Vishnu right now. Brahma is saying that actually this all is ordained by Lord Vishnu. So the devastation that Hiraṇyakaśipu and Hiraṇyakāśipu are creating is arranged by the Lord. And he goes and tells the backstory of how Hiraṇyakaśipu and Hiraṇyakāśipu were Jaya and Vijaya. Now interestingly, in the Bhagavatam, if we consider, the 3rd canto is describing this particular story, but the more detail will come in the 7th canto when the other brother will be talked about over here. So the context is that when this adversity is coming, Brahmaji is helping them make sense of it by telling that this is the will of the Lord, that bhagavāṁs tad vidhitsati. So vidhi is what is desired or wanted. Vidhitsati, that is the desire of the Lord. So this is the will of the Lord, and therefore you should accept it. That is the idea over here. So now, when this is happening, the implication for us, so the context is, I can go much deeper, but this pastime, as we all heard of it many times before. So let's focus on the implication. See, generally for us, whenever we face any adversity in life, any problem in life, so we expect that we need to deal with the problem. So often now, if we consider the problems we are facing, broadly speaking, a common question that comes up is, especially when those who are theistic or devoted, they are facing problems. So the question comes up, where is God? Where is God when we are going through these problems? So now if we could consider problems and say God. Now broadly speaking, the problems that come in our life, they can come from multiple sources. See, in general, what happens? We exist in the world. Now, we exist in 3 broad circles. There is the body-mind circle. There is the circle of the society. There is a circle of the body, mind. There is the circle of society. And there is the circle of nature. Now from all these 3, we can get distress. So what are these 3 distresses called? The body-mind distress is called as adhyatmic. Yes. Now, so we can get distress we can get pain from here. Similarly, we can get pain from the surroundings, people around us. There are mosquitoes, there is mujahideen, and there is mother-in-law. So, we all can get different kinds of troubles. This is Adi Bhautik Klesh. And then there is Adi Atmik Klesh. No, there is Adi Daivik Klesh, yes. So this comes from the environment, from the nature. And then we all try to counter it in different ways. We may go to a doctor or a therapist to deal with the Adhyatmik Klesh. We may go to some counselor, some mentor, maybe some mediator to try to deal with Adi Bhautik Klesh. Or we may try to use force to try to dominate and control the other person. And if it's Adi Daivik Klesh, largely we can try to do something we just mostly have to tolerate it. Or we try to develop some technology by which, say it's now so hot, we have fans by which we can try to bear the pain. So basically, whenever there are problems, we try to deal with the problems. And when some problem becomes suddenly exceptionally forceful, then that raises the question, how is it? Say if somebody falls down slightly, and you fall down, you experience slight pain, but then you feel unbearable pain. Hey, what's happened over here? If normally we speak something to someone, we get angry, and that person instead of becoming angry, has come to kill us. Says, what happened? I just spoke a few words to you. What is wrong with you? So, when any of these problems, all these three can keep giving problems to us, but when any of these start giving a problem which seems utterly disproportionate, utterly unmanageable, that's why it raises a question, what happened over here? How did this happen? Where is this problem coming from? So, at such times, so now the devatas and asuras, there is a perennial fight going on between them. Generally, the devatas are more powerful than the asuras. Sometimes the asuras get the upper hand. But here, the devatas are finding that these asuras are just unmatchably powerful. So what's happening over here? So that's when normal methods for dealing with problems don't work, that's when we start looking upward. That's when we start looking for some further explanations. So now all these three circles are contained in the ultimate circle, that is God. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. So everything comes from Krishna. Mattaha sarvam pravardati. Everything is contained within Krishna. So when the normal explanation of causality doesn't seem to work, causality is cause-effect connection, when that doesn't seem to work, that's when we start looking upwards. So the idea is, if you put it another way, say we are here and we are in the world. Now many times we face problems and we try to deal with the problems. But when suddenly we face a problem that we can't deal with, that is when we start looking upwards. Maybe is there some help for me over here? So like that, when the devatas are not able to deal with the problem of the asuras over here, Hiraṇyakaśipu, they are going to Brahmaji. And now Brahmaji is giving some explanation over there. So the explanation is, this is the will of the Lord. And the implication over here is that if it is the will of the Lord, don't try to fight it. Fighting it is useless. Bhagavāṁs tad vidhitsati. So now the idea over here that some problems are such that they are the will of the Lord. And there is, if we are trying to fight it, then it's just a waste of time. Because if something is the will of the Lord, it is going to happen. So now here the further specific story is, why is this the will of the Lord? That the Lord wanted to do Maushala Leela. Now he wanted to have the pleasure of fighting. Now that's a very exceptional circumstance, so I won't go in that direction right now. But for us, when we are facing a particular situation, say we are working in an office and maybe the boss is extremely exploitative and abusive. If we are sick and we are trying to treat ourselves and no treatment is working. or if we are in a particular place and there's a lot of political instability and persecution, and there seems to be no hope of things improving ever over there. So then, when do we see this as the will of the Lord and we accept it? Or when do we see that, okay, no, I have to do something about it. I have to fight it. So the implication is at one level that if something is the will of the Lord, then we need to accept it. That's the basic implication over here. So acceptance. That's what is required. Now the challenge over here is that if the will of the Lord were coming directly from the Lord, it's easier to accept it. Isn't it? Isn't it? If Krishna comes and does something to us, Krishna says, I am punishing you, then it's easier to accept. But if somebody is doing something to us, then the question comes as, how much is this Krishna's will and how much is this your will? Isn't it? So, how much is this because you want to hurt me, because you are evil, because you are mean, because you want to get back at me, and how much is it Krishna's will? Now, so that is where things become very difficult to understand. So that's where, but the broad, this is the key implication, that the will of the Lord is to be accepted. But now let's focus on the last part, the takeaway. Now that is where we will discuss quite a bit. I'll take 3 different examples from scripture, one from Srila Prabhupada's life, and then we'll try to understand how this works. So now the will of the Lord, bhagavāṁs vidhitsati. There are many different terms used for it. Sometimes the word is used daiva. Sometimes the word is used as kala. Now daiva is destiny. Now while kala is time, but that word kala is also used sometimes in the sense of an irresistible force. For example, when Bali Maharaj is arrested by the associates of Vamandev, and the asuras with him want to fight. He says, unjust. You have been unjustly cheated and arrested, and we'll fight. And then the associates of Lord Vishnu easily beat back with asuras. And at that time, Bali Maharaj tells them that this is an unfavorable call for us. Let us not do anything over here. Similarly, in that pastime only earlier, when the devatas go to Vishnu for help, and Vishnu, because the asuras have become too strong under Bali Maharaj, he says this call is not favorable for you. Therefore, don't try to fight with the asuras, make peace with them. So the idea is that this unknown force, which cannot be controlled, which cannot be countered, which needs to be accepted, that is different words are used for it. So Kala or Bhagavān. Here it is. So Kala, Bhagavān, Daiva, different words are used for it. In the Ramayana, when Ram is exiled, at that time, Lakshman is enraged. And he says, the king has lost his good sense. He has become infatuated with lust for his youngest wife, and that's why he has sentenced you to exile, although he has no fault on your side. He says, you should rebel against this. At that time, Ram says, no. I was there with our father, and I saw there was no infatuation. There was only obligation. He had given a vow, and he has to honor that vow. He said, and when Lakshman is angry, he said, when we are angry, we need someone to be angry towards, isn't it? If we can't be angry with this person, we become angry with somebody else. So that's the problem with anger. Sometimes what happens is somebody is more powerful than us, we can't get angry with that person. Then we become angry with somebody who is less powerful than us. Although that person may have not done anything seriously wrong also. Like people have a bad day at office, and then they come and take it out on the family. Or sometimes they have a bad day at home and they go and take out on the employees. So Lakshman has to get angry. He says, Kaikai. He says, why did Kaikai do something like this to you? He says, you have always treated her like a mother. And then Ram says, don't be angry with Kaikai. You know that her love for me was just like the flow of the Ganga. It was pure and unceasing. So that's why now Lakshman is not done. He says, that's what I can't understand. How did the Ganga dry up in one night? And then Ram says, that's why when I saw this inconceivable change in her disposition, I concluded that this is the will of destiny. This is the will of destiny, and therefore it should be accepted. Lakshman is not yet done with it. He says, it is only cowards who accept injustice as destiny. Heroes fight against injustice. At that time, Lord Ram says, for me, what is most important is my dharma, my duty. As a duty to my father, I was ready to ascend the throne. And now, as a duty to my father, I will go to the forest. So, we talked about Kala, that's in the Bali Maharaj pastime. Daiva in the Ram exile pastime. So now, if we consider the Bhishma pastime, Bhishma, when he meets Yudhishthir, what does he say? That tasyānuvihito rajan. He analyzes various causes. Some people say, oh, this is because of this, this is because of this, this is because of that. But ultimately, it is the will of the Lord. So there, he directly uses the will of the Lord. Tasya anuvihito. Now it's interesting, he uses the word tasya, not yasya. That means he's not pointing to Krishna and saying this is Krishna's will. Tasya. He's using like the first person, second person, third person. So first person is I, second person is you, third person is he, she, they. So tasya is which person? Tasya is the third person. So he is using third person. Then afterwards he will say that actually that Lord is this Krishna only. But initially, so the devotee's mood is that whenever something terrible has happened, a devotee does not want to ever blame the Lord for that. So often within devotional philosophy, there are terms like the second person, third person reference to God, or Daiva, or Kala. Now these terms are used. Now Kunti Maharani in her prayer says, Manyetam Kalam. She says, I consider that you are Kala. So that is true. But at certain times, certain terms are used. Because a devotee does not want to hold the Lord responsible for the distresses of the world. Now, we may say, why not? The distresses are for our good, ultimately. But the pains that can come in the world can be unbearable. And it's very difficult for a person to bear that. So, now, when Draupadi is dishonored, now we consider Krishna came as, in a mystical way, as an endless Rome to protect her. Do we think that Krishna came as Dushasan to disrobe her? Obviously not. Now we say nothing happens without Krishna's will. So whatever Dushasan did is also Krishna's will only. Is it? When it is Dushasan's will, it is Krishna's sanction. Without Krishna's sanctioning, nothing happens. But the point is, such terrible things can happen in the world that a devotee doesn't want to associate the Lord with those things. And that's why there is Daiva, there is Kala, these terms are utilized. So now, we discuss these examples of how when distress comes, then it is ascribed to some higher cause, especially when it just doesn't make sense. Why is this happening? And another point is that it seems to be unstoppable. So within the takeaway, I'm going to talk about three main points, A, C, T. The key messages of the Bhagavad Gita is that we need to act. So first is accept. Accept the inevitable. Accept the unavoidable. One of the key things that considering something like Daiva or Karma or whatever, Daiva or Kala, whatever, see, the human mind has the tendency to constantly go on what ifs. Now, what if only I had done like this? What if he had done like this? What if we had not done like that? And this just keeps trapped in the past. So these what ifs, they can be endless and they can be pointless. Endless because we can think of hundreds of ways in which things could have been done differently, isn't it? And pointless because you can't change the past. It has already happened. So endless and pointless. So what happens is acceptance. When we accept that what has happened is the will of the Lord, that just stops the what if. Okay, it has happened now, it is the will of the Lord. So acceptance comes by seeing that something is the will of the Lord. However, does this mean that everything that has happened, everything bad has happened, should be accepted as the will of the Lord? Should we never do anything to counter it? It's not that simple. The same Lord Ram who says that his being exiled is the will of the Lord, is destiny, is daiva. When Sita is abducted, does he say this is also daiva? No. He actually counters it. He works extremely hard to find Sita back. Although he has no resources, he forms an alliance and he eventually wins Sita back. He could have said, it is the will of destiny, what? I had a wife, I lost my wife. But he doesn't do that. Why? Because in that case, his consideration is, it is my dharma to protect my wife. So acceptance is one aspect of being in harmony with God's will. But that is not the only aspect. Why not? Let's look at that. So if we are here in the world, if God is above us and we are here. Now, Krishna's will can happen to us. That means the events that are happening to us can be considered to be Krishna's will. But it is not that Krishna's will is meant to only happen around us and to us. Krishna's will is also meant to happen through us. Isn't it? What happens to us is God's will, but what happens through us is also God's will. That means that it is sometimes Krishna may want us to accept a particular situation, but sometimes Krishna may want us to fight against that situation. So just because a situation is God's will does not necessarily mean that we have to accept it. Yes, we have to accept that this situation has come in my life. But what do I do about that situation? That is a completely different consideration. So see, what happens for most of us is that if we are here, behind us is the past and ahead of us is the future. So the human mind often works in the way it is most unhealthy. In geopolitics, they say that like some country, this is an attribute to many politicians about different countries. They say that they will do the right thing only after they have done everything wrong and it has not worked. So it's like that. So for us, what happens? Often in the conditioned stage, we think the past is the domain of free will. Oh, if only I had done like this, if only she had done like that, if only I had done like that. And we think the future is the domain of destiny. Oh, what if I get cancer? What if I'm in an accident? What if this happens? What if that happens? And we live in fear, as if the past is ordained. But this is an unhealthy way to live. Far better that we see the past as the domain of destiny and see the future as the domain of free will. That what has happened, okay, it is destiny. So now to understand this point, let's look at the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, the war happens. And now there is the same two characters, Vyasa and Dhritarashtra. They have a conversation before the war and after the war. Now before the war, Vyasa is just one among the many sages who comes and tells Dhritarashtra, stop your son from antagonizing the Pandavas, otherwise your entire dynasty will be destroyed. At that time, Dhritarashtra tries to come up with an excuse. He says, if it is the will of destiny that our dynasty be destroyed, then who am I, a tiny mortal, to stop the will of almighty destiny? So have any of you heard of this word called rationalize? You know, see, when we rationalize, we tell rational lies. Rationalize, we tell rational lies. That means we use philosophy or logic or argument to justify whatever has happened. Say if a husband has promised his wife, I'll give up smoking. And the wife comes into the husband's office and sees husband's room and she says there's smoke all around. She says, why are you smoking? Actually, I was not smoking. The room was very cold. I just wanted to make it warm for you. So that is rationalize. So, say we are supposed to get prasad for someone and we forget to get the prasad. And then he says, where is the prasad? Actually, Krishna told me you should fast today. So, we may rationalize. So what happens is, here Dhritarashtra is rationalizing. He's saying, if it is the will of destiny, what can I do? So at that point, Vyasa becomes very grave. And Vyasadeva says that, O king, it is very difficult to know what is the will of destiny. What is for us to know is what is our duty. O king, contemplate in this situation what your duty is. So here, Vyasadeva does not refute the idea that it's destiny, but he says contemplate what is duty. Is the war destiny? He said no, focus on what is your duty. Interesting, there's the same Vyasadeva and Dhritarashtra have a discussion after the war is over. And Dhritarashtra is utterly lamenting. He had 100 sons and all his sons are killed. At that time Vyasadeva comes to Dhritarashtra and says, O king, do not lament. This war was the will of destiny. And he says that I was in the heavenly planets and the Pandavas are actually devatas and the Duryodhan is actually the Daityas and Danavas. They had performed austerity so that they could penetrate on the earth and take over the earth. So he gives an exposition at the cosmic level. So the question comes up, was the war destined or not destined? Well, who knows? Krishna himself went as a peace messenger. So Krishna tried to avoid war, but it didn't work out. So basically the point is, when we are trying to do something, when we are facing a difficulty, we don't know what is destiny. We need to focus on what is my duty. So now in the case of Dhritarashtra, he's supposed to be the king and he's supposed to have the power, and he should use that power to prevent a disaster from happening. But sometimes, despite our best efforts, a disaster may happen. Then we can say it is destiny. But if somebody is irresponsible or negligent, say, and then a disaster happens, can we say it is destiny? Well, the point is, see, philosophy, there is philosophy and there is the purpose of philosophy. There is jnanam geyam jnanagamyam. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the jnana is the process of acquiring knowledge, geya is the subject that we learn about, and jnanagamya, that is the objective of knowledge. Why are we trying to know things? So we have in the Bhagavatam 7th canto, Hiraṇyakaśipu will say that I am going to perform austerity is long enough so that I can become strong enough to kill Vishnu. Killing Vishnu is very difficult. It's almost impossible. Don't worry, the soul is eternal. The soul is eternal, therefore I can keep performing austerities life after life after life till I become strong enough to kill Vishnu. So what happens is, the philosophy is the Atma is eternal. But therefore, what should we do? Therefore, we should find an eternal object of love. Isn't it? That is the purpose. But what is this? So, what is Hiraṇyakaśipu doing? He is looking for eternal enmity. Not eternal love, but eternal enmity. So the point is, we cannot see philosophy separated from the purpose of philosophy. And ultimately, what is the purpose of philosophy? To do dharma, to do seva, to do bhakti, to do the right thing and move closer to Krishna. So anybody can use any philosophical point to justify anything. But the point is that taking us closer to Krishna? Is that taking others closer to Krishna? That is the important thing. So that's why for us, anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. We need to accept what is favorable and avoid what is unfavorable. So I have written the book on reincarnation called Demystifying Reincarnation. So once in America I had given a seminar on reincarnation, and after that one young man came and he said, "Can you pray for me?" I said, "That's interesting. Normally it's a more scientific kind of seminar, so I had not expected a prayer request." I said, "What do you want me to pray for?" So he says, "I'm in love with a girl. And we have been trying for the last 2-3 years, but somehow my parents are not agreeing, her parents are not agreeing. So can you pray that I'll get to marry her in my next life?" So now the knowledge of the soul, instead of helping us think of developing relationship at the level of the soul, what are we doing? We are perpetuating the relationship at the material level itself. So sometimes we can use knowledge to defeat the purpose of knowledge. That's why knowledge is important, but what is the purpose of knowledge is important. So yes, something is, the will, we can consider concept of destiny, this is destined. But what is important is, what is my duty over here? Am I doing something that is taking me closer to Krishna? Or by accepting this as Krishna's will, am I doing something which will not take me closer to Krishna? When Srila Prabhupada was in India, and he was not getting any, before he went to America, when he was not getting any followers, and people are not taking his words and his wisdom seriously. Now Prabhupada's spiritual master had said that if nobody comes for your talks, speak to the walls. That was the spirit he had. Now Prabhupada could have said, maybe it is Krishna's will that I am meant to speak to the walls for the rest of my life. Prabhupada could have done that. Did Prabhupada do that? No. So, with respect to the past, okay, it's destiny, it's Krishna's plan, whatever it is. So, as devotees, with respect to the past, whatever has happened, we need to come to peace with the past. We need to be peaceful about the past. Don't be agitated. This person did this and I did this and that person did that. If we don't come to peace with our past, there will be always a worthless war going on inside us. See, there are worthwhile wars to be fought, but there are worthless wars. I did like this and he did like that and she did like that and they did like that, and it just doesn't help. Now, just because we are peaceful about the past, peaceful is not passive. Peaceful is more of accepting. So, Prabhupada from 1922 to 1965, he was trying to share Krishna Bhakti in India. It just didn't work. But Prabhupada was never resentful. He was not bitter. He was trying to work with his god brothers, but his god brothers not supporting. This is what I've seen happens. I've been traveling across the world for the last 10 years. So, across different world, there are many sincere devotees trying to do a lot of services. And it's amazing how much energy, enthusiasm, creativity devotees have by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and by the mercy of the Guru Ajanata Parampara. So many devotees want to do so many things for Krishna. But one thing I notice is that often the devotees who have a lot of vigor for doing something for Krishna have almost to that proportion bitterness towards all those who are not helping them in doing that thing for Krishna. So what happens is, I was doing so much service. Oh, my temple manager is not helping me. This person is not understanding this. This is like this. This is like that. You can blame the institution. You can blame people around us. You can blame. Now, to some extent, if you hear their story, yes, everybody has had bad things happen in their life. Everybody feels that I was treated unfairly. But what is happening is, the irony over here, the tragedy you could say almost is that we want to offer the world to Krishna. We want to do a particular project. We want to do this. We want to do that. But in trying to offer the world to Krishna, we are filling our heart with so much bitterness that our heart is becoming unofferable to Krishna. If our heart is filled with anger and resentment and bitterness toward Krishna, Krishna's devotees, then how can that heart be offered to Krishna? So it's like we would like to offer, we want to offer the world to Krishna, but we also want to offer our heart to Krishna. Now these two are not independent. Often the way to offer our heart is by taking some responsibility, doing some service, and we offer the world to Krishna as a means of expressing our heart. But if we consider among these four quadrants, which is the best situation to be in? We offer our heart and we offer the world to Krishna. But this is the best. However, if we are offering the world but if we are not offering our heart, then what is going to happen is, we are doing wonderful things for Krishna, but we are still very bitter. We are still egoistic, or we are bitter or resentful about all those things, people who didn't help us. So this is, if it takes us toward this, it is good. But if it takes us in this direction, it is bad. So the point is, Srila Prabhupada, even when his service was not working out, he was peaceful. He was not bitter about what happened. So peaceful, the understanding the will of the Lord should help us to come to peace with our past. But having said that, with respect to the future, it's not that we are to be peaceful. With respect to future, we are meant to be purposeful. That I have a purpose of serving Krishna. That is what my life is meant for, and I will hold on to that purpose. So, Srila Prabhupada, he was, okay, whatever happened, for 40 years I was trying. At the end of 40 years, what do I have to show? Nothing practically. I don't have any followers, I don't have any money, I don't have any institutional support. What do I have? But still, I have the desire to serve Krishna. And that desire, I am not going to give up. So for us, with respect to the concept of destiny, should help us to come to peace with the past. Now purposeful about the future, how do we pursue our purpose in the future? Sometimes that may be by changing the situation. Sometimes we may decide, okay, I can't change the situation, I have to wait. I have to be patient. Let the situation change itself. So that may vary. But a devotee never loses the sense of purpose. That, okay, whatever I am going to be serving the Lord. So when we have that sense of purposefulness, I'll conclude with one last point over here. That when we say we are purposeful in the service of Krishna. So that is, I said I'll talk about these three things, A, C and T. A was accept. C is, then we need to contemplate. Okay, what is the way I can move ahead in my life? And the last T is, we need to transform. So we need to transform. Sometimes we can transform the world around us. Sometimes we can transform our corner of the world. Sometimes we can just transform our consciousness. Now, which is the right thing to do? It depends. Sometimes our service requires us that we need to fight to change the situation. Sometimes we decide, okay, I don't have the power to change the situation, I accept the situation. But while accepting the situation, we cultivate remembrance of Krishna. So we consider the example, say, of Prahalad. Now Prahalad was always purposeful. But in his purposefulness, his purposefulness was accept that whatever is happening is the will of the Lord. Now Prahalad did not raise any weapons. Prahalad did not fight. But at the same time, we consider Arjuna. Arjuna, what did he do? He didn't accept the situation. Arjuna accepted the responsibility to change the situation. That there is adharma over here, and Arjuna's, at the end of the Gita, Arjuna's surrender is that karishye vachanam tava. Accept the responsibility to change the situation. So sometimes the doing our part in the service of the Lord means, okay, I cannot do anything about this. Let me just do what I can. Let me peacefully pursue my bhakti. I cannot do anything to change the situation. Sometimes we may decide, it is my responsibility. I want to change the situation. Now this may depend on, now Prahlad is a great devotee, Arjuna is also a great devotee. It is not that one devotee is lesser and one devotee is greater. It depends on two things. This is the last point I'll make. Our guna and our karma. Our guna is our disposition, and our karma refers to our position. So our guna and our karma. So for example, if we are in charge of the kitchen and we are meant to make prasad, and we have made prasad for 30 people and suddenly 70 people have come up. So if we are in charge, can we say this is the will of destiny? No, we have to make some arrangement, make some khichdi, make something. So if we have taken a particular position, then it is our responsibility to do our best to fix the situation. Now, if somebody is not a kitchen in charge, but they are concerned about the project, they may say, okay, I have got some stuff at my home, I'll just quickly cook and get it. At the disposition, somebody may want to intervene and help also. That's okay. That's wonderful if somebody wants to do that. So, the guna and the karma, both are important. That if we have taken a particular role, then it is vital for us to take the responsibility to change the situation. Karmanya akarmaya pashed akarmani cha karmaya, Krishna says. Krishna tells Arjuna that you can do no action and still you can be culpable. You will be getting bad karma. Why? Well, if there is a riot going on, and the police just stand peacefully and let the rioters riot peacefully. Now the rioters are not rioting peacefully, they are violently rioting, but the police remain peaceful. The police may say, we didn't do anything. And that's why it's a problem, isn't it? So somebody says, oh, those rioters are there, we can't do anything about it. Well, I don't want to get involved. Well, if you don't want to get involved, then you should not have become a police person, isn't it? So we cannot take a particular position and then not do anything about it. So if you're taking a particular responsibility, it's important that we exercise that responsibility. And sometimes beyond that also. So Jatayu, when Sita was being abducted, at that time Sita saw Jatayu. He told Jatayu. Now sometimes Sita is envisioned as like a weak, fragile woman. Not at all. She is a very strong woman. And although it's the most horrifying thing to imagine, she's being abducted by a terrible demon like Ravan. And Ravan is like a notorious gangster kind of thing. So everybody knows what kind of person he is. But even then she has the presence of mind. She sees Jatayu and immediately she realizes Jatayu is not strong enough to fight against Ravan. She says, oh Jatayu, please help me. Don't try to stop Ravan, but inform Ram that I have been abducted by Ravan. Now Jatayu hears this. But what does Jatayu decide? He says, how can I live with myself if Sita, who is like my daughter, is being abducted? And he fights. He tries to give good advice. He tries to challenge Ravan. Finally attacks Ravan. And he fights probably the best fight of his life. But unfortunately, age is too much for him. He gets tired. And then he's killed by that. So now, was what he did was wrong? Well, not really. Now, the point over here is, ultimately, we could say he was not an official protector of Sita. They were not relatives. But he had the mood of a protector. He thought that Dashrath is my friend and she is my friend's daughter. I have to protect. So sometimes by guna and by karma, somebody may decide that this is what I am going to do. So that's why the concluding point is that when we face a particular situation, whatever bad situation is there, the situation has come in my life, that means I accept it is God's will. But what do I do about that situation? Two devotees in the same situation may arrive at two opposite conclusions. One devotee may say, okay, I don't want to get involved in this. I'll just accept this as God's will, and whenever Krishna wants, Krishna will fix the situation. Another devotee may say that, no, I want to fix the situation. This is terrible. This is my service to Krishna. Either is fine. But while doing a service to Krishna, it's not that sometimes we get so caught in doing the service to Krishna that we forget Krishna. What do I mean by that? That we forget that everything is happening under Krishna's will. And when Krishna wants, Krishna may fix the situation without us. Krishna may fix the situation through us also. But we don't want to be so caught in trying to correct the situation that we forget Krishna. Think, I have to do everything, and why is Krishna not helping me? Why are devotees not helping me? So that we don't want to become bitter like that. Srila Prabhupada, when he was in Jhansi, and there was a conspiracy to take away the land from him, Prabhupada accepted that as Krishna's will. But when in Juhu there was a conspiracy to take away the land, Prabhupada didn't accept that as Krishna's will. Prabhupada fought against it. But in both situations, Prabhupada was always devoted to Krishna. And that's how we can also stay devoted to Krishna. So our topic today, I'll quickly summarize. Understanding the cause, understanding Krishna's role in adversity. That was the broad topic I was discussing. When we face distress, when we face adversity. So I discussed broadly three main points. The context, first I said the CIT. The context is that we are having the pastime where the implication is that there are some situations, some adversity is to be accepted as God's will. Brahmaji is telling them, accept this as God's will. So what is the takeaway for us from this? So I talked about ACT. We need to accept. Then we need to accept that. So that's what 3 points I talked about. Accept was what? That whatever has happened, nothing happens without God's sanction. The term may be used as daiva, the term may be used as kala, the term may be used as bhagavān, whatever. But we need to come to peace with our past. So with respect to the past, we need to be peaceful. How do we come to peaceful? By stopping the what ifs about the past. If only this person had done like this, if only if I had done like that, that just wastes our time. So come to acceptance of the past. But that does not mean that we have to accept whatever is happening as it is. Then we need to contemplate. Contemplate what is it that I can do in this situation. So Krishna's will is not just in terms of what happens to us. Krishna's will is also in terms of what is meant to happen through us. So we contemplate, how best can I do my dharma? How best can I do my seva? So while contemplating this, the key factor for us to remember is, we want to change the world around us, change the situation around us, but we also want to change our heart. So the best is we try to be here. But even if we can't offer the world to Krishna, we want to offer at least our heart to Krishna. But if we offer neither, or we get so caught in offering the world, we don't offer the heart, that would be a problem. And lastly is, we transform. So how do we transform our situation? That depends. I discussed Prahlad's example was, he accepted the will of the Lord. But Arjuna's example, that he accepted the responsibility to change the situation. Or Srila Prabhupada in Jhansi, he accepted the will of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada in Juhu, he decided to accept the responsibility to change the situation as that was the will for the Lord. So based on our guna and our karma, we can decide that what is it that I should be doing, my position and my disposition. Based on that, we can be peaceful about the past, but we need to be purposeful about the future. And in that way, we all can act in a way to serve Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.